This is the Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Ross. Happy Monday. Thank you for being here. You know, normally start Mondays talking about your weekend and what you had going on, but of course we saw what happened in Gilroy, California yesterday. We do need to talk about that at least a little bit. Of course, yesterday at the end of this festival, the Garlic Festival in Gilroy, California, Northern California, a little south of San Jose and further south of San Francisco. 3 people were killed, including a 6-year-old boy. 11 others were injured. The murderer was killed as well. He is not counted. When I say 3 people were killed, the murderer is not one of those. The murderer was also killed, does not count as a person. So far, you know, catching up on some of the headlines this morning, just a couple of quick things. There was a very substantial police and security presence at the festival. People going in were wanted and their bags were checked and all this. So apparently this guy, you know, stories this morning, he apparently cut through a fence and came through, you know, some other part of the park where they hold this event, maybe along a stream bed or something like that. The other thing that seems to still be going on is the police they say they're looking for a second person, a second suspect who they don't know what this second person was doing. It doesn't appear that there was a second shooter, but they don't know that for sure because it was chaotic. They think maybe a second suspect helped the shooter in some other way. My personal guess, less than 50-50 that there is a second suspect, actually, that there really is a second person. But, you know, we'll see. Everybody's got a camera these days, right? So maybe somebody caught something on video without even knowing it. If there's any kind of press conference about this during the show where we are going to learn more, we'll certainly bring that to you. I hate these stories. I hate these mornings. I want to mention a couple other things. On, let's see, was it Friday night? No, Saturday night. It was Saturday night. In Brooklyn, there was another shooting in Brownsville. 1 man was killed. Another person on the last story that I saw was in critical condition. 10 other people wounded. And in this case, they're saying they're pretty certain that there were at least 2 shooters. Well, they think there were 2 shooters. 12 people were hit, 7 men, 5 women, ages 21 to 55, at a celebration taking part in what was called the annual Old Timers event, quoting from the Los Angeles Times, which featured musical performances from former residents and current local talent. Maybe gang motivation here. Don't really know. This event has been held every year for more than 55 years now. So there's that. And then yesterday, there was a shooting, a drive-by shooting outside a synagogue in North Miami Beach, Florida. 1 person apparently shot. I think he was hit in the leg. I don't think anyone died. The one story I saw in the New York Daily News actually said the victim was hit in the leg 4 times. It's actually kind of remarkable if somebody was hit that many times that he wasn't hurt worse. New York Daily News says police are looking for a dark-colored Camaro or Impala, adding that police are awaiting security camera video to get a more detailed description of the vehicle. So in the past few days, we've got a bunch of shootings, and that doesn't even include Chicago and Baltimore, which I'm sure we'll get to a little bit later in the show. And frankly, I don't have any deep thoughts about it. We need to do this or we need to do that. I don't know what we need to do. I have no idea what we need to do. Really, no idea. Everyone's going to start, well, all the usual suspects will start talking about gun control and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The bad guys have their guns already. And gun control isn't going to, all more quote-unquote gun control does is keep honest people from protecting themselves. So I'm still at a point where I hope that more law-abiding citizens will actually buy guns and get trained. And I mean, I talk about this a lot when we talk about Centennial Gun Club, you know. So I've got a concealed carry refresher class there tomorrow night. But it's, how do you not see that kind of, actually, before I heard about the events in the shooting in California, I actually went to the gun club yesterday to just practice, to get more accurate. And I just hope more people will do that. Anybody who thinks that they can emotionally keep it together and accept the level of responsibility that comes with putting yourself in a position to defend yourself or other people, should you end up in a situation like that, you know, I hope you do it. So another thing, though, very interesting about the Gilroy Garlic Festival. At first, last night, kind of in the, not going to quite call it fog of war, but in that direction, witnesses were saying that they thought that the police showed up within about 5 minutes, which is already pretty quick. But the police are now saying this morning that they showed up and they shot and killed this madman within about 1 minute. There was a lot of security there. And it's certainly possible that when the attendees heard, a shot, some number of shots after that, and then maybe some number of shots after that, that some of what they heard was actually law enforcement shooting at the bad guy rather than the bad guy shooting at everybody who he could see. I heard in one of the news stories today that somebody actually screamed at the shooter, like, "Why are you doing this?" And he responded with something about being angry. I don't know if we'll get any kind of confirmation on that story. Of course, you hear all the usual people talking about he had an assault rifle, and wherever that conversation's going to go. Bottom line is, with almost any kind of modern gun, anything that's not a revolver or a single shot, you had some people, I saw some people on, I guess not surprisingly on CNN, talking about, we got a massive number of shots off in a short period of time. Well, maybe, I mean, there were a lot of people around him, and it appears that he shot 14 or 15 people in a minute. It's not really that many if you have a modern weapon and are surrounded by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And again, I'm not saying any of this by way of trying to make a point about public policy or gun law or any of that. I'm just reacting to the story. Anyway, 6-year-old boy, I believe his name is Stephen Romero, is now gone. And, and I don't have an answer. I don't even know that I have a suggestion other than just be as prepared as you can be. I really don't think I have much of a public policy suggestion. Everyone's got, like Elizabeth Warren, I got a plan for this, I got a plan for that. Everybody's got a plan for everything. I mean, what are you going to do other than not live your life, not go out, not go to the Garlic Festival? And I don't want to live that way. Most people don't want to live that way. Last thing I'll say about this for now, at least, is one of the things that I just keep getting reminded of over and over and over is that these things can and do happen in places that should seem utterly safe. Gilroy, California, during a garlic festival. A country music bar in Thousand Oaks. Couple of synagogues, actually another one, if you include yesterday's. We're now at least 3. Actually, there was another one before. Plenty of synagogues, although the lunacy the insane hatred and even fear that some people feel towards my tribe, towards we Jews, towards us Jews. Proper English there, please, Ross. I'm not all that surprised when something bad happens in a synagogue. But to me, that's what jumps out from so many of these stories. You hear about shootings in Chicago, Baltimore. Again, we'll talk more about Baltimore in a bit. Urban cities with, is that redundant? Major urban areas, inner cities. You kind of expect it there. But in these other places, you don't. And I guess these other places, maybe they make the news more because you don't. Actually, when you look at the number of murders in Chicago and Baltimore, and I actually talk about this in my Ross report, but I'll mention it quickly right now anyway. On a per capita basis, because Baltimore is a lot smaller than Chicago, but on a per capita basis, Baltimore has twice as much violent crime as Chicago. Imagine that. And that's why I guess a lot of those stories don't make the news. People just expect it right now. Who can blame them? I'm not saying that we should live in a world where we expect that kind of thing, but as long as we're living in reality, there you go. All right, I'm sure we'll be coming back to this and kind of apologize for starting the show with such a heavy topic, but that's what's in the news. That's what's going on right now. And I feel a little bad. I feel like I'm letting you down in a way. Because I feel like when there's big stuff going on and big stuff that might or likely will involve government action or government reaction or something like that, I feel like I should have a suggestion for you, a suggestion for the politicians. Here's what you should do. And I barely have anything. And I generally, these stories are too often, and I'm always in that same position. I barely have anything for you. Be well prepared. Know your way out of places. Carry a gun. I don't have anything to tell the government to do. I really don't think there's much of a government solution here. That doesn't mean that everyone under the sun isn't going to look for one. At least everyone on the left under the sun isn't going to look for one. All right, other big story over the weekend, Dan Coats is resigning. Dan Coats is the director of national intelligence. He's a former senator from Indiana. It's long been thought that President Trump would have fired him, except that Mike Pence, who was governor of Indiana when Dan Coats was a senator from Indiana, was kind of protecting Coats and telling Trump, leave this guy alone. And Trump did. President Trump announced on Sunday, after the media already had the story, that Dan Coats is going to step down. Here from the New York Times, he's leaving after a fraught tenure marked by tension with the Oval Office. And the president tapped one of his staunch defenders, Representative John Ratcliffe, he's a Republican from Texas, by the way, to take over the country's expansive network of spy agencies. Dan Coates actually sent a letter to the President of the United States. Dear Mr. President, I'm grateful to you for providing me the opportunity to lead the intelligence community. Serving our nation as the Director of National Intelligence and as a member of your national security team has been a distinct privilege. I'm pleased with the accomplishments of the ODNI, which is the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the broader intelligence community have achieved. We've established a shared vision called IC 2025 and focused our initiatives to ensure that the intelligence community is best positioned to address the continuing evolution of threats facing our nation. I've ensured that we have the capabilities necessary to protect against those who would do us harm, including through reauthorization of Section 702 authority, establishment of an election security executive to support the whole of government effort to address threats against our elections, reforms to the security clearance process, and improvements to our budget process. I've overseen the selection of new, extremely capable leaders across the IC and within the ODNI and have transformed the focus, structure, and integration efforts to ensure that you have the best, most timely, and unbiased intelligence possible. The intelligence community is stronger than ever and increasingly well prepared to meet new challenges and opportunities. As we've previously discussed, I believe it's time for me to move on to the next chapter of my life. Therefore, I hereby submit to you my resignation, effective August 15th, 2019. Sincerely, Daniel R. Coates. All right, that's fine. President Trump will name an interim DNI for a period of time. An interim DNI does not need Senate confirmation before John Ratcliffe goes for confirmation hearings, assuming it gets that far. Let me just talk about Ratcliffe a bit and what I expect to see here. John Ratcliffe is a smart and capable guy. He's an attorney. He was part of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Texas, involved with some anti-terrorism stuff there as well. In Congress, he's become one of President Trump's strongest supporters and especially one of the most aggressive critics of the Mueller investigation. Again, using his background in federal law. I think he's smart. I think he's capable. I understand from various news reports that President Trump loved how aggressively Ratcliffe was questioning Mueller a few days ago, although nobody should think that that was the thing that made Trump think to pick Ratcliffe. He had already met with Ratcliffe a week before that to ask him whether he might be interested. Ratcliffe would come into the job with less experience by far than any director of national intelligence. That does not mean he shouldn't get the job. But I do think because of his strong support of President Trump, I do think confirmation will be challenging. We'll be right back.
Sponsored by Lowe's.
There's a closure on northbound Federal this morning. Northbound Federal closed